These young frogs, being raised at the Phoenix Zoo, are getting some very special care from Abraham Cadmus.
That means extreme care with the water quality, making sure everything is within normal limits, feeding them proper diet, which includes romaine lettuce, egg whites, and tadpole gel. And then once they develop extremities and move into the froglet stage, we'll move them into different tubs, less water level, and start feeding them crickets, depending upon size.
The reason for all this special attention is the frogs themselves. The Chiricahua Leopard Frog is a threatened species native in the United States to only Arizona and New Mexico. Disease, habitat loss, and competition from non-native predators had caused their numbers to plummet to alarmingly low rates. So in the 1990s, efforts began to save the species by taking frog egg masses from the wild and raising them in captivity. The fact that no one had ever tried to raise wild frogs before didn't stop them from trying.
In March of 1995, the Phoenix Zoo was asked to help raise some leopard frogs. That is something we had never done before at the Phoenix Zoo. So we scrambled for space. We tried to figure out where we would put these egg masses, and the only space available was my office. So we quickly assembled a series of 10-gallon tanks and set them up in my little tiny office and started raising leopard frogs.
I keep these frogs in my office because I'm so concerned about them. Every morning I come in and I pray that they're all alive. So I go in and I check. There's Bill, there's Bob, there's Mike. And when one dies, my day is ruined. And we lost very, very few, thankfully. But they mean a lot to me. And this is a good effort. It's a very cooperative effort between many agencies, and I feel real good about it.
Mike Demlong is the Wildlife Program Education Manager at Arizona Game and Fish. But in 1995, he was the fresh-faced Living Collections Manager for the Phoenix Zoo.
The neat part about it was that working with native leopard frogs wasn't done. I mean, nobody in North America at the time that we knew of was raising threatened or endangered or even special status species leopard frogs. So we were on the cutting edge rearing leopard frogs. So it was learn as you go. We made some mistakes, but we had a lot of successes, and some of the successes we had have been built on by others, which is the true sign of success.
It's super rewarding just being involved in native species conservation, but it's also day-to-day rewarding in the fact that we get to see an egg turn into a froglet, and every single day our efforts are impacting the species in a positive way.
Simply raising the frogs from an egg isn't enough. The goal is to grow them to a point where they are large enough to be released back into the wild. Preparing for that day is a very precise and well-orchestrated procedure. Frogs are collected from the rearing tanks at the zoo and placed into numbered containers. Then the containers are packed into temperature-controlled coolers for the long ride back to a pond in the Huachuca Mountains.
Well, one of the neat things about head-starting Chiricahua leopard frogs is occasionally we get to go out and release them back into the wild. And one of the things we're doing today is releasing frogs back into an area where the original egg mass, near where the original egg mass that we started this whole program with in 1995. This is a similar area where we release frogs that we just head-started this season. And this is actually the 20th year we've been doing this head-starting program. So it's kind of a fun circle of events to come back to this area and release some frogs that we head-started this year.
Today they are releasing over 400 frogs, and everyone on the team gets the opportunity to return some of them to the wild.
So how cool is that?
Awesome. The reason why we do this work with Chiricahua leopard frogs and threatened and endangered species in general is because living in Arizona, we're all stewards of our wildlife, and it's our responsibility to protect and preserve these species.
Yeah, the Phoenix Zoo has been working with a lot of local species recovery, such as Mount Grim red squirrels and narrow-headed garter snakes, and black-footed ferrets. The Chiricahua Leopard Frog is one of our longest programs.
While this might seem like a lot of effort for the sake of one little species of frog, like everything in nature, there is always a bigger picture to consider.
Amphibians are what biologists call indicator species, and that means the presence or the absence of those species can tell us what might be going on with the environment, whether it's positive or negative. And so specifically with frogs, they have permeable skin, and that means that they can breathe oxygen through their skin, and they can also exchange gases or fluid from the environment into their skin and vice versa. And so if we see declines of our amphibian populations or die-offs, that gives us a little story about what's going on with the environment, and that the water quality might not be as good, or there's chemicals in the water or the air pollution. And so they're important indicators to allow us to assess that quality habitat.
The techniques for raising wild frogs in captivity have come a long way since 1995, but the dedication of the people and the organizations that take on this work is only growing stronger.
Working with this project for the last 7 years, it's been really rewarding to release frogs and augment these sites, and then come back and see that they're doing really well.
When we were approached to help raise these leopard frogs as a refugium population, as an insurance policy in case this population went extinct in the Huachuca Mountains, we were all in. We just wanted to make a difference in the wildlife conservation in Arizona. We had no idea that it would, 20 years later, that the Phoenix Zoo would be, and the department would be leading partners in the conservation of leopard frogs in Arizona. At the time, we just were doing what was right.